The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by Blackberry. Love doing business on your Blackberry smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Hello and welcome to episode number 183 of the ZA Tech Show for 31st October 2011. I just realized as I was saying that it's Halloween. Our special Halloween edition of the ZA Tech Show, in which we won't be very scary at all. Us not being from a country that really celebrates Halloween much. Anyway, welcome to the show. My name is Simon Dingle. My very scary guests this evening are Brett Haggard from Hypertext Media Communications.
Brains.
Take it away.
Brains.
Ben Kelly's here from all over the place. Mail and Guardian and elsewhere.
Hi, Simon.
How you doing, Ben?
Yeah, not too bad.
I am rad. Why are you pointing at my computer, Brett?
Calypso says the live streaming is clipping bad.
Okay, tell Calypso.
You'll fix it right up.
Dude, check this out. Over there on your left, right?
Yeah.
You see this little dial under the desk? Turn it down a bit, and then we'll see if Calypso has a better experience. Because of course we're gonna apply fixes based on one user's experience over here. But
Well, we'd be like the Advertising Standards Authority.
he says it's better now.
Yeah,
So.
indeed. That would happen when I ambled over to the thing and
Yeah.
didn't
So,
touch it.
it's good to be back. I was traveling in Europe, as was Brett. We were in London for Nokia World. I was in France before that. Sam Beck-Bessinger handled the show last week and just blew everything away. I don't think anybody wants to see me on here anymore. So we'll just hand it over to Sam.
I'm going to go home and kill myself.
It's all about Sam now.
If you're blown away, Simon.
Well, thanks to Sam for handling last week.
Yeah, no, she killed it apparently.
But it's good to be back, and I suppose we should kick off then with Nokia World, that being the big news of the week, I guess.
Indeed.
I had, I don't know, sort of, I was sitting watching the opening keynote of Stephen Elop, and he started by introducing us to a young Iraqi guy who he had...
No, he was...
No, he was Iraqi. Pretty sure he was Iraqi.
No, he was not from Lebanon. He was from...
Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was from an emerging market.
Indeed.
And the message very strongly from Nokia during that keynote was that they've looked at emerging markets, they've looked at people in that important sort of 20 to 30-year-old age group, and they formulated devices for them. So, we saw the first Windows phones from Nokia last week. That was a big deal. The Lumina 800 and the 710. But for me, the Asha devices, that's the S40 devices that can now run Angry Birds and all sorts of other things, developed for emerging markets. That, from a business perspective, was almost bigger news to me, because we weren't expecting to see that necessarily.
Well, look, I think that on day two, it also became massively relevant to consumers, considering that there is somewhere in the region of 100 EA games that have now been released to the Asha phones in Series 42. So that is cool. The devices, I must be honest, are very, very cool. I really enjoyed playing with them. They are clearly entry-level devices, but I think what they've managed to achieve for the price points is pretty awesome.
I thought so too. Yeah.
And very interesting angle from the perspective of we tend to associate data usage and internet connectivity with smartphones, and it's very, very clear that a lot of people are going to use Facebook and Twitter and those kinds of services that are internet services and a basic web browser on these devices quite competently. They've done a very, very good job of getting S40 to this point where it's actually a very, very capable online services device.
Definitely.
The other thing I really, really liked is the fact that there's now a compression-capable browser.
Yeah.
And
they said compresses as much as 90%.
Obviously, that's going to depend on the web page.
Sure, if it's just text, maybe.
And I think it's always such a tough one to handle, because how much do you compromise the user experience in order to get that right? Because I know that some of the early compressible or compression-centric browsers I've played with really mangled web pages quite badly.
Yeah.
This seems to do a really, really good job of scaling the web page down so that it not only doesn't kill your data usage and drive your drive your data cost right up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, gets it onto the device in a way that it's quick, it's really responsive, using not top end data speed. So that's very, very cool. You must say they feel good in hand. They've clearly thought a lot about these devices. There's 3 different ones that are.
The Asha 200 was almost sort of the flagship. That's got a QWERTY keyboard and a touch screen. They said it's got a very powerful speaker because they designed this for markets in which people won't always have a hi-fi or something to plug their phone into. So very nice speakers. 7-day battery life. Dual SIM.
36-hour music playback.
Yeah. It's
through the speaker, which is,
and then
is very
the price.
impressive.
It's launching in Europe for €60, so it's realistic that we're going to see this thing in Africa for less than 700, 800 rand.
I mean, the whole thing is that, these phones. We wrote the Nokia Series 40 off. And that's, everybody did. I don't think we were alone there. I think we kind of went, Symbian's dead. Don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And what Nokia came back and did is showed us, well, actually, this platform's alive and well, and more than capable of delivering the kind of experience that people want.
Yeah, but
in that market.
But let's not forget that we're not talking about phones that are destined for the top of the smartphone market. But we're talking about very practically designed, very sort of pragmatic devices that I think are going to do pretty well in developing markets.
No, that's exactly the case. You must understand where Nokia sell most of their phones.
Yeah.
They don't sell most. They're not. Then they've been knocked firmly out of the smartphone game.
Yes.
By pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The Lumina stuff will get them back into that game, but that's not going to make them. That's not going to keep their shareholders happy.
Yeah.
Their shareholders will be happy when they're selling hundreds of millions of phones.
Sure.
And the Asha phones are the ones that'll go sell hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of phone that is the next big step. If I was WhatsApp, for example. I don't know if it's available on Series.
It is. They're launching it with WhatsApp. Comes out of the box on these things.
See, that's the killer feature,
Yeah.
You've got cross-platform connectivity, messaging capabilities out of the box on these phones, and that's what people want. That's what the average person, whether he's in Joburg or in New Delhi, is going to want.
Yeah, I think there's also, it's an aspirational brand, Nokia. I speak to guys in Kenya, for example, and their market is flooded with a lot of knockoff devices, a lot of sort of who-flung-dungs pieced together, especially for their market. They tend to be flimsy, sort of pseudo-disposable things. And yes, they've got all the features and the color screen and all the rest of it, but they don't have any quality. And so, brands like Nokia are synonymous with quality. They're aspirational. These are devices that people are gonna want in Africa for sure.
And if you look at the latest stats in terms of mobile phone sales, I think Nokia's number 1, Samsung's number 2, and I think ZTE is number 3.
Is ZTE 3?
I think
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
ZTE is 3, I think. And that's LG's been basically kicked into touch, and Sony Ericsson's sort of,
to put it politely.
Yeah, but ZTE are making a real play on this market, and that the market ZTE are after is Nokia's market.
Yeah. That, of course, was another story this week. Sony buying out Ericsson in the Sony Ericsson joint venture. But we'll get onto that in a moment. I want to stay with Nokia for now. Let's talk about those smartphone devices.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Lumina 800 and 710. The 800 wasn't a big surprise to me. We had seen the N9, and we kind of expected that at Nokia World we'd see the N9 just running Windows Phone. I love the N9. I think it's fantastic hardware, and I can say the same for the Lumina 800. Unlike the N9, it doesn't have a front-facing camera, though. Which I suppose some people will miss. Apparently, the official line from Nokia is there just wasn't enough time. They only had 8 months to work on this thing, and they just didn't have time to integrate it. So that's one possibility. But it does look like a decent smartphone. Now, Ben, you've been using Windows Phone for a while. Do you feel like you need it on a Nokia, or?
Well, let's look at it this way. Nokia, we know, make great hardware. Okay, and I wasn't all that impressed with the Samsung Omnia 7, the physical hardware.
Oh yeah,
it didn't really feel like it was. It felt like a previous generation smartphone.
Right.
It didn't feel like something which I would walk into the shop today and have. If I was given a choice between best Android phone in the market, best iPhone 4 shaped device, and the Omnia 7, I wouldn't take the Omnia 7.
I must agree with you. It feels kind of boxy. It feels a little bit plasticky. It's a little out of place. I don't know.
I think it was a bit of an experiment.
It didn't blow me away.
I think it was a bit of an experiment. I don't think it was.
I think it's a placeholder.
Well, exactly. And I've spoken to guys from Samsung who say the roadmap for 2012 is when we really start to see Windows Phone popping up for Samsung in a big way.
They needed to have a device out there to show that they were serious about Windows Phone. And to show that they were actually going to deliver something which people could use on a day-to-day basis.
Now, we're busy rolling the Amazing Everyday advert that Nokia is going to launch this device with. It's quite clear Microsoft is throwing a hell of a lot of money at marketing this thing and helping Nokia out of that. And Stephen Elop made the statement at Nokia World that this is the first real Windows Phone.
Yes. Now,
when you're the CEO of Nokia and you're standing in front of the world saying that, you have permission from Microsoft. You know what I mean? He had cleared that line, I'm sure. So Microsoft is quite, I think they kind of pitched their colours to the post when it comes to Nokia. They are in there.
But totally rightly so. I mean, at the end of the day, so Ben, you're saying that the Omnia 7 had to be, Samsung's placeholder around we're serious about Windows Phone. I'm sorry, right? No one is as serious about Windows Phone as what Nokia is.
Yeah.
No, everyone. I've kind of felt what's been missing from the Windows Phone space right now is nobody is actually giving it the weight it really needs in the market.
Right.
All of the vendors that have got Windows Phones out at the moment have got a far more developed Android strategies, far more developed strategies on their own operating systems if they happen to have them. And it's almost like it was a token move. It's like a little, we'll check that box. We're going to quietly support, Microsoft to the point where they can't really point fingers at us. But nobody's gone balls to the wall for Windows Phone.
Well, no one's going to do it.
Nokia's the first vendor to come out and really epitomize that. They've given the commitment to it. They are going to make it work. And why not? Microsoft's finally turning around and going, hell, somebody's really going to do something about this platform that we've worked bloody hard on. Let's put money behind it. Why not?
But it's very simple, Brett. The issue is that Nokia got first bite of the mango.
Yes, true that.
No one's going to do something serious with Windows Phone 7 until they have Mango on the device.
You see, it was a catch-22 as well. Android's working nicely for Samsung. It's working nicely for Motorola. It's working very well for HTC. We'll talk about them in a moment as well because they've shown some amazing growth.
Yes.
And for them, Windows Phone has this tiny market share, so it's almost this catch-22, They needed one big manufacturer to go, okay, we're going full tilt with Windows Phone, and then the others will jump in. And so I spoke to some of the guys from Microsoft at Nokia World, and they said the moment Nokia made the announcement that they were going Windows Phone, the other guys started signing up and going, okay, we're ready to go with this thing. Because they'd seen, one of their own, it's like competition, they'd seen Nokia dive in. They're like, okay, well, if Nokia's doing it, if it's good enough for them, if they're going to be pouring money into building this ecosystem, then we think there might be a future.
And that's kind of an important point, Si, actually, because when Stephen Elop announced the partnership or the alliance or whatever you want to call right back 8 months ago,
yes,
the point that he drove home quite clearly was this is primarily about building the ecosystem and then building Nokia's play in this.
Yes.
So I think that is pretty cool. It really does epitomize all of that. Let's quickly talk about the phones. And so we've talked about the 800. For me, the superstar is the 710.
Well,
hands down, the 710.
It does. Its sex appeal is like probably less than zero, but at the price, it's amazing.
See, this is the thing. You're talking about a phone that's using the same processor as what the 800. It's a 1.4 gigahertz processor. Yes, it is. Yes, it's only. Yes.
By the way, it's not the one that's rolling on the video at the moment. That's the 800.
Yes,
if you're watching.
It's only got 8 gigs of flash, which I think is a drawback. 5 megapixel camera. Very, very competent LCD screen, not AMOLED. But other than that, it is a fantastic device. It is as quick and snappy and responsive to use as what the 800 is.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, I had my hands on it. It wasn't as snappy. But that doesn't matter because for me the big thing is the price point, right?
€270. It's like
going to cost less than $3,000, and so
it's going to be free on every single contract, hands down.
Yeah. So you'll overlook the very few shortcomings that it does have. One of my friends who's a journalist in Germany, and he always makes this point, and he's right. He said, it's just not sexy. And people overlook that factor for smartphones these days. If you're talking about college students, if you're talking about people in their 20s, which is where Nokia is aiming for, the Lumia 800 is sexy. The 710 it's just not sexy.
I happen to kind of like the 710. I won't take it over the 800.
Not
'Cause
going to
you're a
say
snob.
anything about you, Brett.
because the 800 has higher specifications, and I'm just completely seduced by that absolutely fantastic chassis and piece of industrial design
Yeah.
of the N9.
It is
It is
awesome.
still, for me, hands down the best looking phone available right now. Really, it is so sexy. But the 710, I wouldn't be unhappy using it. I think the other thing that's cool is there's like lots of personalization options. There's covers and bits and pieces that you can pop onto it that are kind of rad, and that I think will kind of appeal to the youth market.
To appeal to the Hello Kitty market.
What I found
I think they're working on some cases, Ben.
What I found interesting, though, was the play from a music perspective. So, of course, Nokia had the ability to do a bit of customization to Mango,
Yes.
or on top of Mango, part of the deal that's been struck. And I'll be honest, I was expecting a little bit more, but I think how the music thing has played out, for me, at least as a South African, is massively important. The only digital music service you can make use of pretty happily across every single platform in South Africa and get access to music that you can legally pay for is Nokia Music.
Yeah.
And this will plug straight into Nokia Music, which I think is very, very cool. The other thing is they have these cool music mixes, which I thought was kind of a novel idea. So
Yes.
this ability to
It's like
stream.
Genius mixes almost, but like a Pandora service.
Well, that is attached kind of as a second point. So the first point is you have these predefined mixes that you can stream over
Yes.
3G. They stream quite competently. Apparently 50 megabytes for 3 hours of music, which is not massively onerous. Those predefined mixes, you also have the ability to download for offline listening and enjoyment, which is pretty rad.
Yeah.
But then, like you were saying, Si, you've got the ability to do this Pandora-like thing also. Give it a couple of artists and it'll stream those.
And you can download that mix.
No, those mixes you can't download. You can only download the predefined mixes.
Oh, okay.
And then, it's, all of your MP3 music happily plays on the device, which I think is quite cool as well.
Right. Well, time will tell whether or not it's enough. The market did nothing really. Nokia's shares stayed
Yeah,
flat.
it was-
So clearly wait and see. I think it also has to
It
do
did
with the
climb a
fact
bit before the announcement, though. It didn't actually.
it also has
no.
to do with the fact that we're not going to see the Lumina devices in the US. Well, in their current
That's right,
incarnation
yeah.
at all. But something like them will go to market in the US next year.
We can't get an answer about South Africa yet, but the best kind of gamble or prediction
It's
right now
first
is
quarter,
first quarter
yeah.
2012. Yeah.
You know,
So just after the 4S hits Africa.
but do you want the 800 or do you want what comes after it? Because they're going to, very soon have the polished product with the front-facing camera and...
Okay, so the question is, and I mean, I think if I speak for the ordinary man in the street here, is you buy what's available when your contract comes up for renewal.
The best you can get at that point.
At that point. And I think today, if the Lumina, well, let's fast forward to February next year. You got a choice between the Lumina 800, you got the choice the iPhone 4S,
Yes.
and probably a variety of Samsungs and other ones. I think you're going to have a tough choice between those devices.
Right.
I don't think that it's going to be an easy decision. I think there's going to be quite a few people who are saying, I'm sick and tired of this Apple closed garden. I want to go see if the grass is greener on the Microsoft side of the fence.
Right.
And people, specifically people who have know and love Nokia and have for years and years and years, they might go, well, actually, if this is a Nokia and it's running Windows Phone, I don't care. I'll give it Nokia because I trust Nokia.
It's amazing how much brand equity Nokia's managed to retain through this all. And it's been with the people who don't really care about the whole smartphone thing, I still speak to people, and some of them work at 5FM, who go, I like Nokia. They're the most reliable phones I've ever used. They've got the best battery life. Like I've been waiting for them to come to the party with the smartphones, but I won't use anything else.
Dudes are still, rocking like N97s and stuff like that. Earlier today, I was at a client and I we went over and had a chat with one of the guys, and he was telling me a story about how his phone, he's driving his daughter's car and he put his phone down in the center console and it got completely wet. So he went off and he got himself a new phone this afternoon. And how rad is it? And it's like a Nokia communicator. Right? And I'm like, in this day and age when smartphones are like all about the touch and the apps and the da-da-da-da, this is the phone he chose. And he's a serious business guy.
Do you think he chose it? He probably walked into the store and said, what can I get? And they said, here's the phones you can get. And he said, is that one any good? And they said, yeah, it's brilliant.
No,
'Cause
no,
we've got
he
a pack
was
of them
very,
back at,
he was super proud of the fact that
he had
got
gone and
this-
researched it, and he had chosen.
Yeah, this
and-
is what he wanted, you know. So,
Look, I don't think it's a bad phone. It's just a really old phone now.
yeah.
I mean, I think also people. I mean, there's a group of people. I know my sister's one of them. She got at one point. She got herself an HTC when it was still running Windows Phone, Windows 6.5.
6.5.
And you know, she thought she would have listened to me or at least asked my
She's
advice.
still your sister, Ben.
Yeah, I haven't disowned her. She's very useful to keep around. She organised me Kings of Leon tickets for this weekend. So, I mean, people like that have had really bad experiences with touch screen phones and with smartphones.
Yes.
And so when she replaced that HTC, it was with a Nokia, which is, I think it's one of the ones that's got a keyboard. It's an E62, I think.
Right.
E61, E62, somewhere around there. And she uses it every single day. And I think if it got stolen, she'll try and get another one exactly the same because she knows and trusts and loves it, you know. And those are the people maybe who have ventured off the beaten path into the touchscreen world at some stage earlier on, got their fingers burned by bad devices, and now will not touch them.
Now, while we're on it, one of the other stories from Nokia World that was barely covered at all was the Nokia Bell, the 700. This is mature Symbian, and I was speaking to somebody who's been using it, Ricardo Webb, who used to be from South Africa. He's working for, I think it's called 1,000 Heads now in London. Yeah. He actually designed the Nokia gift machine, which was quite cool. Just quickly, you've checked into the gift machine on Foursquare, either by tapping NFC or just, you know, on Foursquare on your phone, and then it dispensed gifts like a vending machine when you check in on Foursquare.
I just kept on getting candy bars, but a whole bunch of other guys want like
music boxes.
music boxes and rad
but
other
now
things,
the
so.
700 is an amazing device. Look, if you don't like Symbian, you're not going to like it, but it's a pretty polished version of Symbian. It's Symbian about as good as Nokia could get it, in a really lightweight device with really awesome battery life, not a bad camera at all, and tiny. The Bell is tiny. And so I went and took it, had a look at this thing because he had recommended it and said, look, go and take a look at it. And it's really a cool device. Yeah. Really very nice. You can see that Nokia's kind of forked. Yeah. And the Bell and the N9 fall on the old Nokia branch that's still going and is going to die off soon, whereas the Lumina and the Asha devices are clearly on the new Nokia branch. You know, that's where it's forked to. Yeah. But it's interesting getting a glimpse at where Nokia would have gone had they not switched tracks.
Sure.
Anyway.
Of course, one of my favorite things about Nokia World was every time you spoke to one of the like proper Nokia guys and he was referring to Symbian Bell, call it Belly. Or Belle.
Yeah. All right, we want to talk about Sony Ericsson, HTC. We're going to talk about Ubuntu Linux coming to smartphones and tablets, all that and more later in the show. But right now, I want to take a break and talk about our sponsors of the ZA Tech Show. They are Vodacom, of course, and we're very proud to have them on board. Now, they've just introduced a new product called the Vodafone Webbook. And of course, this is in their drive to provide affordable internet devices that help put the power of the internet in people's hands, further helping to bridge the digital divide. And of course, we know all about that in South Africa. So this is essentially a laptop. It weighs less than 1 kilogram. It's got a 10-inch LCD screen, 512 megs of memory, and an additional 4 gigabytes of storage space. It's a scaled-down internet device. And the amazing thing is that they can get it into market at ridiculous prices. So the Vodafone Webbook, as a standalone device with a prepaid option, goes for 1,499 Rand. That's including VAT. You get it with a prepaid starter pack for 1,899. The starter pack includes a modem, SIM card, and 100 megabytes of data per month for 12 months. There's a contract option as well. The device with a modem will be priced at 189 Rand on a standard MyMeg 500 contract for 24 months. Top-up options also available and includes a modem and 100 megabytes of data per month for 3 months at 169 Rand on top-up 135. And then the Vodafone Webbook will be available at Vodafone World and all participating outlets on order from 19 October 2011. So go and check out this device. Remarkable, lightweight, very affordable internet device that Vodacom's introducing into the South African region. It's the first one in the Vodafone group that's going to get the Webbook. So go and check it out. Vodacom.co.za. Very proud to have them as our sponsors of the ZA Tech Show. And now regular programming resumes. What did you go and pick up?
So I wanted to get your guys' impression of this. So this is the Dynabook.
The Dynabook.
You can see Simon's really excited.
Dynabook.
Let me
another
guess.
Android tablet.
Hold on, it's 7-inch Android tablet.
Running.
Who cares?
Come on, go for the
2.2
for
whatever.
the trifecta. Really interesting. It's $2,300. Tablet with SD card slot. Takes a SIM card. Surprisingly competent device. Despite the price, I was actually quite impressed. I mean, it's clearly not crammed with the top end specifications, so the kind of stuff that we're used to that would really blow us away.
Take a look.
But very, very nice, polished little device. Feels good in hand. 5
Look, I'm not
megapixel
gonna-
camera.
What did you
and
say
for
the price was?
2.3.
2.3. You see, I'm not going to diss these cheap Android tablets because this is what we need in Africa. We need devices like this that get these, get the power of Android down to the point where we can start, seeing these things making their way into universities and schools.
Sorry, it's called the
important.
Dynapad. Sorry, it's called the Dynapad.
Yeah.
And it's the cheapest 3G tab in the country, and it is 2299.
Yeah. That's
1
amazing.
gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. Sorry, I don't know whether it's a Snapdragon. It's a Qualcomm processor.
Yeah.
Android 2.25 megapixel camera. Whole bunch of stuff bundled with it as well. So it's got like Angry Birds and IMDb and whatever.
Of course, it's got Angry Birds. Did you see the Mighty Eagle was at Nokia?
Yeah, he's so rad.
Chief Marketing Officer.
Awesome.
From Rovio. I saw him at Mobile World Congress. He's everywhere, man. He's talking about Rovio listing next year. Possibly.
That's crazy. Dude.
They reckon the valuation of the company, which at the moment consists pretty much of only Angry Birds, $1.2 billion. And he says they have
a lot of Angry Birds.
He reckons they've got a 20-year plan for Angry Birds.
20-year plan.
He said, think about it. Disney started with a little cartoon of Mickey Mouse. How old is Mickey Mouse now? How long has Nokia been working on Mario? He's like, we've got a roadmap.
So, I mean, it's just amazing
Selling
to see
a lot
how
of merch.
that franchise has just completely expanded. There's the stress balls. I mean, I've got some of the stickers on my notebook that I think are like absolutely epic. There's a board game apparently.
Yeah.
Where you can actually like set the pigs up and shoot the birds out of a catapult across like a table. I mean, that's awesome.
I went to Hamleys while we were in London to pick up some toys for my dudes. And they've got a whole Angry Birds section in Hamleys now with all the toys and the plush toys and the board game.
I want those stress balls, so when you chuck them, they make the sounds of the birds, right? So, which is like brilliant.
Yeah, it's genius the way that Rovio has developed Angry Birds and built a business around it. I'm in awe of them. Absolutely amazing little business. Well, not little, massive.
Well, not so little business anymore. Yeah,
but apparently the merchandise is a big portion of the revenue at the moment. It's like something like 30% or something comes from that. The rest comes from people buying the Mighty Eagle. Because their kids go, can't get past this level. They're like, it's $2. Just bring in the Mighty Eagle.
Game over, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, all right, so staying with mobiles. Sony has bought out its shares, Ericsson shares in the Sony Ericsson joint venture. Clearly Sony's tired of messing around.
Also, at the same time, there's been this like massive disconnect in terms of their entire the digital device division, right?
Yes.
So the tablets we saw at IFA are all Sony devices, okay? They're not Sony Ericsson devices. Sony Ericsson stuff's not on the same stand. It's like this weird like disconnect.
Well, there will be for a while.
Devices kind of look a little bit different. And I think that while that was in the separate division, there wasn't the level of cohesion you really want to see across the Vios and the tablets and all of the home theater and integrated stuff and the Walkmans and, you know. They have a pretty compelling little value proposition. Well, not so little value proposition. If you look at it across all of those things. And the phones were kind of on the outskirts, not properly integrated, I think. So
the first Sony Ericsson,
move, you know?
The first Sony Ericsson phone I've seen since the whole smartphone phenomena circa 2007 kicked off. The only Sony Ericsson phone in that time frame that I've seen that's made me go wow is the Arc S.
Yes.
Other than that, I've been going, yeah, they're okay, whatever. The X10 was okay, had a really crappy user interface built on top of Android. They were late with updates. Like, you know, great hardware, meh, whatever. And I think Sony's going, we need to take control of this whole process now. They've got this new range of tablets that they're doing. They clearly, you know, got the chops when it comes to Android and all the rest of it. So we'll see.
The thing for me is I don't understand what Ericsson was even doing in that alliance, really, to be perfectly honest. You want a consumer... it's a consumer play.
Yes.
Ericsson is not a consumer company. They are one of the mobile companies in the world that I have probably some of the biggest respect for, because the kit that they have is phenomenal, from the perspective of running backbones and stuff like that. Apparently still quite expensive when compared to some of the stuff that's going on with Huawei at the moment, but not a consumer company. I'm sorry, they're just not.
I mean,
and that doesn't belong in a consumer strategy for me. I don't know.
I mean, they've also got a huge professional services division. So a lot of their money they make is out of selling their people to the Nokia, the Vodacoms and MTNs of the world.
Right.
Well, probably the MTNs of the world, not really Vodacom, because Vodacom I don't think use much Ericsson kit.
No.
But MTN do use a lot of Ericsson kit, or historically have.
Yes.
And so I mean they make a lot of money out of that. But I mean the Sony Ericsson is a vestigial thing,
It's interesting seeing Ericsson and Nokia, who very much pioneered the cellular market in the early days. Kind of, very, very similar companies in the beginning and the different paths they've taken.
Yeah, you have to make a decision. You're either a networks company or you're a device company.
Right.
You cannot be. I mean, I think the lesson that everybody's learned is that it's very difficult to be both.
Yes.
And do it well, and do both well. And I mean, Sony Ericsson was just a remnant of Ericsson. Ericsson used to make great phones. They used to make really, really good phones. But the point is that it's just very difficult to make great phones all the time.
Definitely.
Especially if your board spends half the time trying to run a business-to-business operation and the other half of the time trying to run a business-to-consumer operation. How do you do that? You don't. You can't run both. It's very difficult to run both parts of the organization. There's very few companies which get it right.
Right.
I mean, even look at IBM. I mean, IBM got out of the PC business. Why? Because that's a consumer business. It's not It's not a business. I mean, it's
anything that smelled like commodity, they kind of
exactly,
shed off. Even DRAM, which was profitable at the time.
Yeah.
Are you making calls?
Well, this is kind of apparently how you make calls on the Dynapad. You hold it kind of backwards.
It's not right, man. It's pretty much identical to the Galaxy
bucks?
Tab 7-inch.
$2,300. A Galaxy Tab. The original Galaxy Tab, the 7-inch, is still selling for like $8K.
Yeah, and you'd still have to pay me $8K to use it. I don't know how the hell they got away with that price. I don't think they did. Anyway, so yes, Sony Ericsson no more. Sony's taking it over. Good times maybe for Sony.
May the rad continue. Yeah.
Well, Sony still have to have. I think Sony have got a lot to prove still.
Oh hell yes!
I mean, they were in the crapper for a good few years.
Listen,
and those tablets look nice, but had we played with them yet? No.
Sony makes very niche computing products.
Yes.
The guys who use Vaio swear by them and won't touch anything else, but they're not a massive market.
No.
So our head geek in the office, Dion, won't use anything else but a Vaio.
They are awesome. There's nothing wrong
Loves
with Vaio.
the hell out of that thing. So.
I like them too. And that's all I have to say about that. Let's talk about the Motorola RAZR while we're doing mobile.
Yes.
Which was launched in South Africa while we were away, Bretsky. So Nokia had us preoccupied and we didn't take a look at it. But Ben, you were at the launch, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting phone. I mean, it is thin.
Yes.
I mean,
razor thin.
Yes. I mean, they
RAZR. So
they
thin it didn't have an extra. Oh yeah.
These American manufacturers, they
RAZR.
So ambiguous. What could they mean?
I mean, I'm going to just skip over the part where they didn't bring any of the food to the place where the journalists were all looking at the devices.
Oh, don't be like that. Doesn't.
No. That's big for Ben. He doesn't get to eat if that doesn't happen.
I was banking on supper. I got like one piece of sushi.
He's old school, okay.
I'm sorry, Ben.
But I mean, yes, it is.
So super thin.
I mean, the RAZR brand has always been like ultra thin phones. Okay,
Yes.
The screen isn't big. It's a 4.3 inch, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Screen. So it is, and it feels big in your hand.
Dude, 5-inch screens don't work for me. They just don't. It's too big.
I think this is the outer limit of what a phone can be.
Yeah.
And still be. I mean, it is really, really light. It is really, really thin. It's quite grippy, which is one issue I have with iPhones, is that you have to put them in a case because they're slippery. They've coated this thing with like every conceivable protective surface known to man. Like even it's splash proof. So you won't get the, I'm sorry sir, this is water damage when you take it into the shop.
Nice.
2 a.m. in the morning.
Even every single component has been coated with some sort of special rubbery stuff, which makes, so basically it won't, if you drop it in the toilet by mistake, it won't. They don't say you can go swimming with it, but they say it's splash proof.
The only reason Ben has said drop it in the toilet is because that has actually happened,
Yes,
Ben.
yes, real experience. So it's got a bit of a bump at the top where the camera is, which I'm not sold on it. It kind of throws out the overall aesthetic of the phone. It's running Android 2.4 with an upgrade coming to Ice Cream Sandwich at some point in the future, still to be determined. They're saying that because, I mean, what Motorola do is they do quite a lot of customization. They throw a lot of extra features in. They throw a lot of enterprise features in with like enterprise security stuff, with remote wipe and management services and all that kind of stuff. The ability to lock down phones and all that kind of fun stuff, which the enterprises want. So they put a lot of thought into that. The screen looks beautiful. It really does. It's got this nice carbon fiber back. So they haven't gone for like a metal or a glass back, and that's what gives it this nice grippy feel to it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really looks like a solid, well-designed, cleverly thought-out device, which sits nicely at the top of the Android mountain, if you want to call it that.
Yes.
I don't think there's any other Android device which has that broad scope of sort of really good looks, really thin design, clever industrial design, plus a whole lot of extra features which they've thrown in.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Galaxy S's, I mean, I don't think they really can. I think they're sort of one step down from, and I think it's going for about $7,000.
That's
prepaid,
good,
which is
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
well, considering the class of device.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it is a high-end device. So
It's about $1,000 more than the Sensation, I think.
yeah. So I think, I mean, for all, I mean, they haven't brought out RAZR devices for a while.
Yeah.
And I think this one kind of deserves the name.
Yes.
So yeah,
Android is getting seriously cool. I mean, I haven't had a chance to play with Ice Cream Sandwich, obviously, but just looking at it on paper and some of the early demos that we're seeing hit YouTube, it looks really nice.
Yeah. I mean, if I was
Android's
buying,
coming together
if I was
nicely.
buying a RAZR, I would probably like to wait until Ice Cream Sandwich was available for it.
Yeah.
Before I got it, because
Or at least getting some confirmation of the fact that the device you get now will be upgradable.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to be key. I think.
then you can get docks for it as well.
Cool.
Although the
accessories are usually quite good with the Motorola
The Atrix
stuff.
doxes, which
Doxes. I like that.
Doxes.
My
doxes. My doxes. My precious.
My precious doxes.
Yeah.
I know that it does work with a lap dock, which I found was kind of cool.
The RAZR will
RAZR,
work with the laptop.
Yes,
Cool, because I got a laptop.
No,
No,
it won't work with your lap dock.
no.
The new
yes.
laptop, which comes out with the RAZR, it's forward compatible. So they basically standardized on that design for the laptop.
I see what you're saying.
So, but the older devices
lap,
and the older laptops won't work with it.
See, I'm loving the Atrix, and I've been using it with the laptop to check it out. But they really need to update Android on that device. It's 2.2. It's a little bit out.
Yeah, it's my biggest problem with Android is that the
2.3. No, sorry, the Atrix is now running 2.3.
No, mine's on 2.2 and it's fully updated.
Then you need to, no. There's a newer one. It's definitely running 2.3.
I don't think so, dude.
Either way,
Atrix,
Okay.
Android.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's 2.2.
But it is my biggest problem with Android is that you at the mercy of the device manufacturer for when you get an update.
yes,
And that
it's a
it
massive,
irks me. You know, if Google say, "Awesome, here's Ice Cream Sandwich, it's going to change your world," and then I have to wait 6 months for whoever to release it for my phone, or they never
I
do.
think it can go to 2.3. I think you might be right.
It doesn't sit.
You know,
nice
the
and-
whole laptop proposition to me, I wanted to believe, but it just in practice it's not working, and it's just missing a few key pieces of software. They've gone Firefox in a very clunky version of Firefox for Linux. If they'd gone Chrome, I would have been a bit happier. Your applications, you're basically firing them off on the little phone screen in the corner.
Yeah, which is a little strange.
It's a bit strange. So if you want to open a Word document, for example, you're not opening it on the dock screen, nice and big, you're kind of opening it on the Atrix screen, little small in the corner.
None of that bugs me, though. Can I tell you what bugs me most about the laptop?
What?
The keyboard is just
It's
that
pants.
touch too small, man. And the keys are just shifted over that little bit, so you end up typing complete
I think you'll
gobbledygook
get
if you're
used.
touch typing.
Yeah, I think you'll get used to it. The other problem we have in South Africa is we get the UK keyboards on it, whereas most other manufacturers ship US keyboards in South Africa. So I'm used to the US keyboard. Look, it's a great idea, and I'd like to see the Atrix dock because maybe they've made those refinements that I need.
Yeah.
Better keyboard, better browser, etc. Not that I hate Firefox, but
look, the convenience of plugging that phone into the laptop, using it,
and getting the
for
extra
like
battery.
6 hours,
Yeah, no, it's rad.
and
It's
then
rad.
getting walking away with a fully charged device for me is pretty rad. The thing I am really interested to see with the RAZR, though, and I was very impressed with the Atrix for the first 2 weeks I played with it. Really loved it.
Yeah.
Except for random hang-ups here and there. And then it just started happening all the time. The device would just switch off in my pocket for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
At the same time, it would get ridiculously hot. It just gets crazy, crazy hot for no apparent reason, right? So I'm hoping those two things are sorted out with the RAZR, because those are the only two things that irritated me about the Atrix. I absolutely loved that fingerprint sign-on, the biometric sign-on on the Atrix, which is so cool.
Doesn't exist on the RAZR.
No, indeed. But I thought, I was going to say
it
that's
really
the one thing
worked
I
quite
should've-
well.
it
I was
worked
skeptical when they
unbelievably
told
well.
me about it, but it worked very well. Anyway, we need to move on. But the RAZR's looking cool, and I will give the laptop another go. Maybe we'll get a bendy RAZR in. Did you go and play with the Nokia bendy screen at Nokia World?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
You see, Samsung's launching a device next year.
Apparently so, yeah.
They've got it ready for market now. This,
again, as
you
with
have
most
to
things-
see this thing to believe. Actually, I've got a video. Hold on, let's play
As
the
with
video. You
most
have
things
to
from
see this
Samsung,
thing.
you actually need to wait 3 months after they first shown somewhere
Right?
to actually see, because we've seen products be launched at
So
trade
how
fairs and
flexible
then
is this?
quietly
I
disappeared
noticed
and
that the guy
spurted
that was
away over a
doing it
3 month
yesterday was
period.
So this Nokia bendy screen is amazing. If you're not watching the video, it's I mean the display quality is phenomenal. It's really a good quality picture, and then it's bendy. So instead of touching on the screen, you can kind of bend it to scroll through lists, and it's amazing how accurate it is when you control it that way. You can kind of click through lists or bend it to zoom in on photographs. And when I first saw it, I thought this is cool, but I don't see any applications. But I was chatting to the guys from Nokia, and they said, look, for one, if it's winter in a really cold country and you're on the train with your gloves on, you can't use a touchscreen, so it could have an application there. They said, second, it's very accurate, so if you want to accurately fly through something, you can do that. Thirdly, for visually impaired people who can't see properly, touchscreens can be a little bit of a problem, whereas this gives them a nice interface where they can use their full hand, still get very accurate control. It's early days for the technology, but as I said, Samsung's taking it to market next year, and I was intrigued. This is like proper stuff from the future, man.
Well, it's interesting because when I was in Cape Town for the N9 launch, I got to speak to the head designer at Nokia, Marco Attasari.
Yes.
And he's very, very focused on interface and where interface meets hardware.
Yes.
So that's why the N9's got the little curved screen and stuff like this. It's a perspective on stuff that not a lot of companies actually take. They'll either focus very heavily on the software element of design or on the hardware element of design, and he's very focused on where the two meet. So that's where you're seeing this being a really cool technology in terms of the bendy screen, but being used in a really, really clever way in terms of how the interface is adapted.
Yes, yeah,
and that, I think, is the exciting bit about Nokia right now.
Anyway, interesting technology. I thought it was pretty cool. Ubuntu is coming to smartphones and tablets, says Mark Shuttleworth. Nice story today, or was it yesterday on Tech Central? I guess it was today because yesterday was Sunday. But look, we're not talking about around the corner. He said the software will support all these new devices in time for version 14.04, expected in April 2014. So it's going to be a while before we see Ubuntu on smartphones and tablets, but it is coming. This is something I discussed with Mark Shuttleworth last year when I was writing a chapter for a book on him. It wasn't long after I asked him about his smartphone, and all he would say was, my smartphone's not very smart. And he didn't seem to be too impressed with any of the smartphone devices that are... Well, he was impressed, but, in his own life, he wasn't sort of surrounded it. But he's been talking for a while about Ubuntu, and, it's made a big dent in cloud computing. It's a very scalable platform for servers. But now also looking at phones and tablets, and And I think it's cool. I've been playing around with Ubuntu One. It's available now for Windows. Works really well. Alternative to Dropbox, but also with their own music service.
Yes.
So you can buy music from Ubuntu. They give you some cloud storage and backup space. It's cool seeing formalized open source and what it's turning into. And I think Mark and the guys at Canonical are doing a great job.
No doubt there. I would just love to actually see or just get an idea of how the company is doing financially right now, because if they are pulling it off and they're cash positive and they're profitable, hell, that's a story, because no one else has managed to actually do that and endure.
Well, Red Hat has.
Yeah, but Red Hat had to go extremely corporate in order to get that right.
Well, Canonical's doing that in some ways, but I get what you're
that's
saying.
where their revenue stream is, but they remain quite consumer focused in terms of a lot of their distros, the netbook side of things.
Their server's the big play, but I
so
mean,
it would be interesting to see whether they are cash positive at the moment, because that is the fatal flaw with most of these open source companies, is they make fantastic technology.
Yeah.
You get sucked into how awesome it is, and it works really, really well, and it's so pure, and it holds true to all of these very utopian tenets, but it generally needs some form of benevolent dictator standing in the corner throwing money at it to keep it rolling. And it would be interesting to see if that is or isn't the case with Canonical.
Well, I was, I chatted to Mark about it when I was interviewing him, and he said, look, the metaphor he used, or the sort of analogy he used, was, he said, we're camping in the desert at the moment, and when the city catches up, when it expands, we'll be ready and waiting. And he said,
Cool.
Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon, is a good friend of his. He says Jeff always says that to effect real change in an industry, you have to be willing to be demonstrably wrong for 9 years. You have to be willing to go through a decade of people proving that your take on things is wrong. That's what it takes to really change an industry. And so
Cool.
Mark's got a very long-term view on this stuff. He's not trying to shift things overnight, and I think he's done a lot right during this time. It'll be interesting to see where Ubuntu goes and where it finds itself on what kind of devices in the future.
I'm a massive fan. I use Ubuntu at the office, and I have one machine at home that runs Ubuntu. In fact, my home media center machine is currently running.
I wish I had more time, because I kind of lost touch with a lot of my favorite distros. Arch Linux used to be one of my favorite, and Gentoo, and I kind of only use Ubuntu at the moment, but I want to get back to those others.
All of those distros are still out there, but it's pretty much centered around, if you're going to download a distro and install it, it's going to be Ubuntu. A couple of years ago, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, it was voted as the most popular, and it stayed there. If you go to Distro Watch, they kind of have the leaderboard down the side. It's been at the top for quite a while now. So.
Okay. Well, we want to do our picks of the week soon, gents, because we're running out of time. Before we do that, I want to talk about Blackberry. They've just introduced the Porsche Design P9981 smartphone from Blackberry. This really came from the left. I wasn't expecting this, but it looks absolutely amazing. In fact, I think I got some video over here, so I'll play that while we do this short message from our sponsors, because Blackberry is a sponsor of the ZA Tech Show. But yes, hooked up with Porsche Design, they've got this absolutely gorgeous smartphone that they've developed together with the guys over at Porsche. That beautiful leather backing. It's running Blackberry OS 7. It's going to be expensive, of course, but it's a Blackberry, and it's a great looking. I've just realized I need to get back to my document, and I've got the video playing. But let's take a look at it, because it is beautiful. Very interesting move from Blackberry. Something we probably would have discussed on the show anyway. So yeah, look out for it. The Porsche Design P9981 is built on performance-driven platform featuring a 1.2 GHz processor, HD video recording, 24-bit high-resolution graphics, advanced sensors enabling new augmented reality applications. Comes with 8 GB of onboard memory, expandable up to 40 GB with a micro SD slot. The Porsche Design P9981 smartphone from Blackberry will be available from Porsche Design stores later this year. And of course, there's more information about that on the Blackberry website at blackberry.com. And we thank them for their support of the ZA Tech Show. Really is a beautiful phone, that. You guys taking a look at it?
I haven't, but generally speaking, the Porsche Design stuff is just absolutely gorgeous. I've been a fan of the
not cheap, but very
Porsche
nice.
Design stuff for quite a while. It makes absolutely no logical sense, because you can generally buy a hard drive, an external hard drive that looks pretty good for a lot less money.
Yes.
But it's just such a good-looking device. You really want to have it on your desk,
True. All right, so time to do our picks of the week. If you haven't heard the show before, this is where we pick our favorite technology stories, products, services, software, things that we found in the last week that we think are pretty cool, and we tell you about them. So, who should we start with tonight? Ben, how about you?
Yeah, no problem. So, I have to tell a bit of a story first. I have
here we go.
a phone
The
call.
earth cooled, and then
A phone call from my technology challenged mother last night,
Right.
who wanted me to look up some information about her family tree. Unfortunately, these kind of things you can actually do a lot because we're from the UK.
Unfortunately, he says.
It's just a bit of fun. I didn't have anything better to do apart from watch Zombieland. So I was sitting there searching through things and trying to find stuff for her. And at the same time, I came across a website called Ancestry.com.
Yes.
Okay, and they have an app for the iPad or iPhone, which is like a family tree app.
Yeah, I think
Okay, and you just it really is. I mean, it depends how much information you have or what you want, all that kind of stuff. You can actually, you can like plug in your name, your mother's name, your father's name, your children's names, your grandparents' names, and you can just sort of spread it out, and you can sort of fill it in as much information as you have. You can fill in.
Yes.
And you can add life events. So like you can add the adoption, adult christenings, annulments, arrivals, baptism, blah 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 blah, bar mitzvahs,
annulments,
ordinations. I mean, pretty much almost anything you want to add in. You can actually throw into
will something to someone.
You can put in, and then you can sort of. But I mean, the trick is that if you've got children, I mean, even if you're not interested in the stuff per se,
yes.
If you've got small kids, at some point in their academic career, they will be asked to make a family tree.
So true.
And this
print.
And this syncs online.
Okay.
I'm thinking to ancestry.co.uk.
Yeah.
So there's an online version of it as well. So even if you don't have your iPad or this app installed, you'll still be able to access it.
Right.
And it's a nice place just to start off with the information that you have. And then as you come along stuff, maybe your brother or your sister or your uncle tells you something which is interesting about the name, or when somebody died, or Aunt Mavis who lives in Australia dies, you can tap Aunt Mavis from Australia into the system.
Right.
And you can sort of gradually start filling this out. So when your child does come back from school and go, no, I have to do a family tree, you go, okay, no problem, print. There you go. Draw this, make this pretty, and then submit it. And
nice.
and the work's done for you. So,
very cool.
I mean, I think that's it's a real bonus, and the app is really easy to use, and it's free. They're trying to sell all kinds of other services, which you buy a premium membership on their website, and they'll do all this looking for you and help you find stuff. Most of that stuff you can actually do yourself if you're a little bit web savvy.
Right.
In fact, the UK government site actually says, don't. You could pay people to do this, but it's actually not that difficult. So that's my one pick. My other pick is just a quick tip. A lot of people have been complaining about battery life on iOS 5.
Yes.
And I saw a tip on CNET yesterday, and they say that it might be caused by location services specifically related to time zone. So I'm going to speak this slowly. If you go into your general settings, if you go into your settings and you go to location services on iOS 5,
yes.
Down at the bottom, location services, there's a thing which says system services.
Right.
You tap on that, and then you'll see it'll say cell network search, campus collaboration, diagnostics and usage, location-based iAds, setting time zone, and traffic. And turn setting time zone off. And apparently that is one of this is what people are saying. It might be what's causing the batteries to drain faster. There's a bug which keeps it looking for the time zone. So it's constantly going, where am I, so that it can set the time zone correctly. So you just turn that off. It's not going to affect you unless you're actually changing time zones.
Right.
In which case you can just turn it on quickly.
Interesting.
Wait for it to reset, and then.
I'll be very surprised if Apple doesn't patch that away quite
they
soon.
probably will patch it, but at the moment I don't know if it's going to work. I haven't only found
one thing that drives me crazy in iOS 5 is you can't turn notifications off anymore. Have you seen that?
What?
There used to be able to go into settings, notifications, and turn them off. Now I'll tell you why that's important to me. Firstly, when you're in a situation where you want to you stretch your battery, you turn notifications off, and it really helps your battery life. But also when you're roaming, there are times where, I'll keep my data roaming off, but I'll just want to switch it on for a little while to quickly do something. And the last thing you want is your notifications firing off. So if you go into notifications now, you can sort apps by manually or by time. You can kind of set what's in the notification center, but you can't turn notifications off unless I'm missing something.
You have to turn them off individually by app.
Well, in other words, you can't. It's like, I'm not going to sit and go through, because you want to turn them on again at some stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that very irritating. I didn't even know.
Anyway. It's not cool, Apple. Sure. I'm reading the Steve Jobs book at the moment. Are you going to pick that, Brett?
No. You can if you like.
Well, I've got another pick, but maybe
I think I should finish reading it before I pick it. I'm about 33% of the way through, and it is interesting.
I see Leo Laporte posted today, our friend over at This Week in Tech, and he said, does anybody feel kind of sad reading it? It humanizes Steve. I think a lot of people put him on a pedestal, saw him as some sort of an enlightened being, something more than a human, and it kind of teaches you that he could be very immature.
Cries a lot, takes a lot of drugs.
Yeah. But then you read, like his sister, for example, Mona. Her name is Mona.
Yeah, Mona Simpson.
Mona Simpson. She had that. They reprinted her eulogy in the New York Times that she gave at Steve's funeral, and you read that account of Steve versus Walter Isaacson's account of Steve. He wrote the book, of course, and it's like, well, I suppose the real Steve's probably somewhere in between. I don't think he's quite as bad as you feel he is after reading half of Walter Isaacson's book, and not quite as good as his sister paints him. I don't know. I know.
I'm going to pass commentary once I've finished reading it. I'm a third of the way through. It's very, very interesting. I'm finding out a lot of things about the companies he ran and the relationships he had.
Look, if you want to learn about the early days of personal computing and Apple specifically, the things that happened at Xerox PARC, and what was as the first person to type on a keyboard and have the letters come up on a screen.
People always say that Apple stole from Xerox PARC. They actually had an agreement with them, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Xerox invested in Apple. But anyway, read the book. It's very interesting.
Very
Even if you're not interested in Steve Jobs as such, it's an amazing book to read about the early days of personal computing.
I haven't started reading the book yet, but I've been reading some of the reviews, and it really does seem like we have a picture of Steve Jobs, the human being.
Yeah,
which we never had before. Which is what everybody wanted.
Yeah,
and I think. What was Steve Jobs? He doesn't care about being the richest person in the graveyard.
Yeah.
I think he honestly did not care what people said about him when he was dead.
Yeah.
And that's partially why I think he said, well, at least I'm going to have my say,
Right.
Dude, looking at it as well, there's this whole noble thing behind it and kind of going, make the best product you could possibly make and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Dude, he was a ridiculously rich man at the age of 21.
Yes.
He could have started spending like a demon and still had change by the time he died. He was ridiculously rich. I mean, I suppose when you remove money from the equation, it's easier to do all of that other stuff. But anyway, all speculation.
Anyway, let's do your pick, Bretsky. What is it?
So I have two. The one I'm going to pick pertains to the trip we did to London, and just before I left, I actually got an email from the guys at Exec Mobile.
Okay.
To say, we hear you're going to London. Would you like to test our product out? Because what I normally do when I travel is I travel with a Wi-Fi. When I get to wherever I'm going, there are these vending machines at Heathrow now. You can buy a SIM card straight out of the vending machine. Or I find a O2 store or whatever the case is. I buy a SIM card, pop it into that, and then I make all of my devices roam on Wi-Fi across to the Wi-Fi, and then I can stay connected very, very happily. I can make phone calls, whatever the case is. So they've got something that eliminates all of that and is actually really, really cheap. So it's part of a worldwide alliance with a company called TEP, the TEP hotspots.
Right.
You rent a Wi-Fi and data on a per day basis. This time around, it was £3.42 per day. All right, so like £21.50 for the 6 days I was there.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about taking a Wi-Fi with you. Don't have to worry about a SIM card, topping it up, anything else. You arrive, you walk over to this booth right at Terminal 1. You give them your name, you show them your ID. They give you a little pack that's got a pre-charged, pre-set up little Wi-Fi in it. You switch it on, join the hotspot, and you're A for away.
Cool.
150 meg a day, so 900 meg for the 6 days I was there. Cost £20, £20.53.
Right.
But then the best part of the whole thing is how you give it back to them, right? It's got a little mailing bag inside the thing, right? So when you're done and you get to the airport,
mail it back to them.
You switch it off, stick it back in its little pouch, zip it up, stick it in the mailing bag, and just toss it in a post box.
Yeah,
right?
my Fight
I've
Club
just gotten
works
the
the
email
same way.
today. I got the email today to say we've received it back. Thank you very much. Here's your receipt.
Right.
Next time you're using us, and it's like all across Europe. And Exec Mobile, from what I understand, is doing the same thing for South Africa. So people traveling to South Africa can
Very
get
cool.
the
I like
same
that.
thing. So
That is awesome.
very, very convenient, easy to use. And yeah, it just works.
So-
Absolutely simple.
I had something which I think might even be better, which was the guys from Fly Connected. They also contacted me before I went to the UK and said, would you like to try out what they do? And so they give you either a cell phone SIM or a data SIM, which you can clip to, which is micro, so you can put it into your iPad if you want to. You specify your device. And then what they basically give you is you get a cell SIM bundle for $400. You get 300 minutes of calling in the UK, 3,000 texts, unlimited data usage,
Wow. Okay.
unlimited voice calls incoming, unlimited obviously incoming, everything else. And then you get 125 minutes to landlines in South Africa from the UK, and
Wow.
38 minutes to cell phones
That's pretty
for
awesome.
400 rand.
That's
Which
good.
is an amazing
Yeah.
deal. It works on the 3 network in the
Yeah,
UK.
so this also used 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So that's the one option. And I had both of these. I tested one in my iPad and I took another one for my phone. Then they've got a 3 gig data device SIM, which is 300 rand. It gives you 3 gigs of data on that, and you can recharge it as you go.
Why not go for the... So can you use the normal voice SIM in a data device or
Look,
not?
I'm sure you could, but it's really nice in a phone. So the idea is pop it in your phone. If it's an Android device or an iPhone, you can use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot as well. You
Leave
know,
a voice
it's got
mail to say,
unlimited
"Text me on
data.
this." Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you got all. So I thought it was a really good deal until I landed in Heathrow. And those vending machines are there, and I realized that what they were doing is this is basically a deal on 3 called. It's like a £25 thing. You charge the card with £25 and you activate it.
Yeah.
The real advantage of Fly Connected is that you get those calls to South Africa,
Yes.
which is important. So you can spend 125 minutes to landlines or 38 minutes to cell phones.
And are those in addition to your normal allotment, or does it just come off your normal allotment of your normal UK calling time?
Oh, no, this is separate to the UK
Oh,
calling
okay,
time,
that's pretty
apparently.
cool.
That's
That's
the way
pretty
I
cool.
understood it. Look, the way I did it was I arrived in the UK, I slapped this SIM into my phone, set it up for a Wi-Fi hotspot so I could use it with my laptop as well. Went crazy the whole week. Phoned South Africa, phoned people in the UK, crunched a lot of data, and still obviously had left when I left. So
I mean, for me, the point is you're really getting to the place in time where it's very easy to do that on prepaid anywhere in the world, but you're still in for anywhere between like 25 and 30 euro regardless to get the starter pack and to top it up with some data.
yeah.
So this TEP thing costs $250 odd. You're also
Yeah.
like $400,
Yeah.
like massively convenient. It's almost like the networks, by not allowing roaming and adapting, are doing themselves out of some good revenue.
No,
there.
totally. I've
Because
always
I
said
would
that.
totally blow $400 very, very happily
Yeah.
if I could have the similar kind of plan on my South African operator. That really
Look,
would be.
it's
a hassle,
ridiculous
you know?
that we still have this roaming situation where you can't take your phone to another country and just use it. Like, yeah. Anyway, let's not go there. Let's do my pick of the week.
I
It's
have
a
one more pick
Oh,
of the
all right.
week. Sorry.
fine.
quick.
Very,
Very,
just
very
let us
quickly.
know when you're done.
Okay,
Whatever.
good. Thanks, I will. So my second pick of the week, very, very briefly, is a Sony Walkman device. So, of course, the Walkman has now become an MP3 player.
Right.
It's called the W series. It's a 2 gig, basically, set of headphones that that you can use for training or whatever the case is. The nice thing about these specifically is that they are heavily water resistant. So
Okay.
they're designed for people that gym a lot. So the nice thing is 2 gigs, pop it on. It's got this voiceover feature that kind of tells you what track you're listening to, whatever. Very, very similar to what the iPod Nanos do. or the Shuffle, sorry. But the thing I really like about it is the fact that it's water resistant. So you can't swim with it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly like advocated in the manual, but apparently once you're done training, you can just like rinse them off under the tap and it won't damage the device.
Okay, cool.
Which I think is really, really cool. It's like $800 for a 2 gig MP3 player, purpose built for training. I think it is kind of rad. Unbelievably comfy to use.
Okay, cool.
Sit kind of snug on your head.
So I came across this new startup this week from Italy. The devices aren't available yet. They're going to launch them at CES in January 2012 at the Consumer Electronics Show. The company's called ImWatch, and they basically have designed a set of awesome-looking watches that are running a custom version of Linux, of Android, sorry. And so what these watches do is they connect to your smartphone with Bluetooth. You can read your email, you can tweet, you can you can do Facebook messages. They show the weather. You can listen to your music.
Where do I pre-order? I want one now. That is so awesome.
Let's play the video if we can handle it. But just looking at this company, the way they're doing things, their commitment to design, it's clear that they're very heavily inspired by Apple. But they are developing what I think is going to be an awesome product. These watches are Italian designed. They look beautiful. And I think it's going to be cool. So I'm definitely going to go and hook up with them at CES because we're going in January. And I want one. It looks like they're going to cost between, I think they said 200 and 300 euros.
249 euros.
For a really nice watch.
Including watch strap?
Listen, you get dumbasses who buy like watches for 15 grand that tell the time, and that's pretty much it.
People that buy watches for 753,000 rand, as I found out this afternoon.
So we've seen this kind of concept before, but if you go and look at the design of them, especially, and what they've done with the operating system, they really look pretty cool. They're also really good speakerphones, apparently, they tell me. So if it's connected to your phone, you can take calls on it, and it's a pretty good speakerphone as well.
So it's the thing that I've always felt is missing from my Nano watch. I really love rocking a Nano as a watch. It's become increasingly useful when I travel. You can just like jack headphones into it with your iPod right there. That's kind of cool. But it would be way cooler if it just connected to my iPhone over Bluetooth. I could read my SMSs. I could look at my email headers, and it push notified ats and DMs over Twitter to that phone. Happiness, complete and utter happiness. And if this does that, it might well be worth the 200 to 300 euros.
Well, go and check it out because they are beautiful.
So what's the website?
Absolutely beautiful. Okay, let me minimize the video. The website is imwatch.it. So imwatch.it. I'm quite excited about it. I like the whole I'm possible thing. Very cool little Italian startup. So go and check it out. Definitely.
Are they going to have them available for sale, or are they just going to launch
it? At CES. They're launching it at CES. I doubt they'll have anything available.
It's so hot. I totally need one of these. Look at it.
So that's my pick this week. All right. What else happened this week? Nintendo lost some money. HTC made some money. HP said it's going to...
Beats Audio a couple of weeks ago as well. That's something we did.
Did it buy them? I thought it just hooked up with them to do that sensation
Beats.
Beats.
As far as I understand, it got bought.
No, I don't think so.
Well, that's what someone said to me.
No, they've worked with Beats to do a Beats version of the HTC Sensation with Beats headphones and music and stuff. But I very much doubt that they bought Beats. It belonging to Monster.
Bought a chunk of Beats.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
It wasn't completely wrong.
Who does Beats? Is it Monster?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons you will have noticed at Nokia World, everything that had to do with headphones and stuff was all Monster and not Beats.
Right.
So,
there's Monster's working with Nokia as well on their new audio devices.
$300 million they put into Beats Electronics.
Okay, cool. Buy them, Brett. there's a bit of a difference.
But that's right up there.
No, sure. All right, we're not going to talk about any of those other things because it is time to put a fork in it, I think. And call it a night or a day if you're watching this during the day. Hi. Thank you very much for being here, Benedict Kelly.
It's always a pleasure, Simon.
Yes, from the Mail and Guardian and geek.co.za, at Benedict Kelly on Twitter, at Bretsky on Twitter. Thanks for being here, Brett Haggard, Hypertext Media Communications.
Thank you, Si.
nice to see you. Love the Angry Bird stickers. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
I'm at Simon Dingle, and this was episode number 183 of the ZA Tech Show. Thanks for listening, watching live, however, wherever, or whatever you watch the show on.
Whatever.
It's good to be with you. We'll be back next week. The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za, and by Blackberry. Love doing business on your Blackberry smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Cheers.